are you? My name is Chris Quinlan and welcome to another episode of The Drum Show, Melbourne Musos, The Drum Show, and continuing with Zappa month. Tonight is Zappa Guitarist, okay? Frank Zappa is known as a composer, a band leader, a trailblazer in so many different kinds of musical styles and techniques and all this sort of business. But one thing about him is his sizzling guitar work, and that's what I'd like to focus on with tonight's show, is how he plays guitar, some of his techniques, and what he does. Now, this is usually would be for a dedicated guitar show, but this is a drum show. So what I'm doing is taking some of his techniques and trying to translate it to some of the drum set music that I've composed for tonight, okay? Using some of his influence with sounds and scales and techniques and all sorts of business. What Frank was famous for was his guitar solos, okay? When he started the Mothers of Invention back in the mid-60s and all that, his guitaring was very good, but when you think about people like Jimi Hendrix coming up at the same time, though, I mean, you know, Frank was up against it a bit. So it wasn't really until the Hot Rats album of 1969 where he came into his own with a dedicated instrumental album with some wonderful guitar pieces, you know, things. This is the album with Peaches and Regalia on it, and it's a terrific album. One of the iconic album covers as well. And what happens is when Frank was starting out, of course he used all sorts of different scales, but his main kind of thing was the pentatonic scale and all this sort of stuff. It wasn't until he started, for me anyway, lots of great guitar solos, please don't get me wrong, through the Grand Wazoo days and all that, but arguably one of the finest albums in rock is Frank Zappa's Roxy and Elsewhere in 1973. And this is a double album that is revered by everybody. Many Frank Zappa fans call it their favourite album, and it's one of the classics. And some of the guitar work on this is absolutely brilliant. And one of the things about Frank Zappa is, of course, his guitars, you know, the guitars themselves. We know Hendrix as being the man with the Stratocaster. Jimmy Page is probably best known as the Les Paul man and the double neck man and all that sort of business. But with Frank Zappa, one of his first iconic guitars that is much loved is on the back cover. This one here, terrific TV. If I bring it up to you there, that I'm going to keep it in shot. That is one of the most loved SG guitars in history, and it's heartbreaking to know that a few years after this picture was taken, the neck broke and it was unfixable. And what this particular SG guitar, you can see his little switches on the side there. Custom, you know, a bit of a custom fit out for Frank to get some of his signature sounds, and it's one of the iconic rock guitars. Is Frank Zappa's SG, is that one there, and yeah, so that's the Roxy and Elsewhere album. That's from 73 into 74 and 75 era. Now, what happened was, during the Shake Your Booty days, 1978 into 79, into Joe's Garage and all that, Frank Zappa's wife Gail got the idea to put out his solo guitar pieces, you know, things that were peeled off of different things, like the solo from Inca Roads, you know, and things like that, off of the One Size Fits All album, and the solo from this particular song here. Just peel it off, because Frank Zappa kept getting requests for put out an album of just guitar solos, and so he did it by mail order only. He bought his wife Gail a computer. She started off a mail order business and thinking it'd just be for fans only, and it sold out within weeks. So he decided to put it out, and it became known as the Shut Up and Play Your Guitar series. It's a 3-record set, is the vinyl. It's a double CD, which I have here. But it's essentially 3 separate albums on its original release. It was Shut Up and Play Your Guitar was the first album. The second album was The Son of Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. And the third album was The Return of the Son of Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. And this is the second iconic guitar, if you will, is the Frank Zappa's Les Paul, which he also had fitted out. I'll put that right up to the screen, and that is his second main guitar. That is the guitar that gives him so many of the sounds, not only on this album, but you know, throughout the Joe's Garage days and all that. And by all accounts, he just walked into a shop, played one, and it said, "Play me," and he took it home. So it wasn't anything special. He didn't have anything specially, you know, built for him by Gibson or anything. He just walked in, played a Les Paul Custom. That's what it is, Les Paul Custom, right there on the headstock. And away he went. He just had it fitted out with his... He likes a parametric equalizer built in and a phase switch for some of his out-of-phase sounds. Okay, so that's the second main iconic guitar. And then the third main iconic guitar was Hendrix's Strat, which is this fella here. Oh, by the way, that was 79 and 80. Off he went, and then by 1988 he released another double album, double vinyl, just called Guitar, and you can see him holding his blonde Strat there, and there it is. I'll hold that up as well. That's the other iconic guitar that Frank used, and he used that pretty much up until the time of his passing. And there you go. There is another very famous guitar that Frank Zappa used for a little while, was Jimi Hendrix's burnt guitar, not the one that he smashed and burnt at the Monterey Pop Festival. This was at another festival, and Frank had the body of it. It's on the cover of a Guitar Player magazine, and he had it refitted out and all that, and then he used it for a while, then he put it away, and then at some point his son Dweezil came across it and said, "Hey Dad, can I use this?" And he had it all properly fitted out, and you'll often see Dweezil playing it with the Zappa Plays Zappa ensemble that he goes around the world with now, playing all the music of his dad, all that. So the first segment of the show is just to introduce Zappa Month again, and this time I'm concentrating on Zappa's guitar work with his seminal albums, if you will, which I have right here. There you go. Lots of stuff. Man from Utopia, some great solos on that. Some great solos on the Them or Us album, and Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch. But the albums that I've pulled out tonight are the specific guitar albums. Okay, more after the break.